Everybody knows. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Victoria Esquimalt Police Board public meeting on June 17th. I'm going to take the opportunity to call the meeting to order right now at 5 p.m. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Manick to provide us with our territorial acknowledgement.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Chair. The Victoria Police Department is situated on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees and Kosepsum First Nations, and we thank them for sharing these lands in peace and in friendship.
Thank you very much. And now I will go to our special presentation and hand it over to Cheryl Major to discuss before the badge. In just 1 moment's time.
So I thought that would take a little longer. So we've got Constable Mandy Sohi with us to discuss this report. And he is our community cultural officer and the person who is organizing and implementing the majority of Before the Badge. This is a combination of, this is just a review that's gathered on feedback from the 6 recruits who participated in the May 2025 intake of Before the Badge, which is our first official intake following the initial pilot. And we're continuing to develop and refine the program and the delivery of Before the Badge. By nature, considering that we are using community groups and different availabilities, the delivery of Before the Badge is a little bit different every single time. So there's going to be different community groups available. We wouldn't necessarily be doing canoeing again in January. But the overall sense of what we're accomplishing is really positive, and we just wanted to provide this report to the board after the first intake so that you got a sense of the feedback and the conversations and the observations, as well as a strong sense of the improvements and iterations that are being made. So I won't take too long to go through the report. There's a few pull quotes in there, which I think really illustrate, and these are pulled directly from the feedback forms that the recruits filled out. So they go through Before the Badge, they have debriefs at the end of each day, and then they're also given a feedback form, which includes feedback on each specific session, as well as the overall experience. And so some of these quotes in here, this week really opened my eyes to experiences I've never lived through. It's hard to put into words, but I know I'll carry this with me when I'm on the road. And to me, this is just exactly what we're trying to achieve, is that baseline understanding and community connection that carries with them through their training to become police officers, and then taking with them when they go back on the road as well, and implementing through the rest of the department. There's some feedback points, really positive feedback on a lot of our cultural community partners here. And then we've identified a few areas where we do want to have some updates and make some changes. So essentially they need more time. Everybody wants to spend more time with our community partners and some additional time for reflection. And we did build that in towards the end of the day, but we'll be building in a little bit more throughout the day as well, with some guiding questions, including more local content. In some cases, our community partners feel the responsibility to focus on the overall experience, where we want to really drill down to what does this mean in Victoria? What are the experiences of residents, Victoria and Esquimalt, sorry, and the experiences of the people that they're going to be serving here specifically, with also the reflection that a lot of the content, some of the overarching content is delivered to them at the JIBC after they start their contact there. Having some diversity in speaker voices. This is some things that we're working with individual providers for, and more site visits. So we're trying to get the Before the Badge candidates out to different parts of the community. That's a really important part of it. But in some cases, they don't actually have facilities that can house an extra 6 or 7 or 8, maybe larger groups eventually. And so we're actually renting spaces to provide a neutral place for them to come and present these. And I think that's a really important aspect of it as well. Tim, I believe that you participated in one of those. at a local facility there. So they are getting a chance to go out throughout the communities, and we're trying to implement more of those opportunities as well. And then in addition to more local content, they do need some additional historical depth in some cases. So specifically a bit of more background on residential schools. So really understanding what they come with and what they need. One important aspect that we added in this time that wasn't part of the initial plan for before the badge was called EDIA 101. And this was by a paid workshop facilitator, and this ensured that everybody had a baseline understanding of a lot of the different terminology and experiences that they were going to be encountering throughout the rest of the week. The candidates found that really valuable, and it also ensured that everybody had a shared sense. We can't just sort of assume what experiences they have. So that was a really well delivered session and really valued. So we've added that in there. We could make this a 2-week program probably pretty easily. This is currently a 5-day program, just with primarily focused on cultural and we could fill another 1 to 2 days quite easily, probably an additional few days. One other consideration was just the funding aspect of it. So we've budgeted it quite sparsely. And just a couple of things have come up, such as facilitated workshop fees. We aren't providing just an honorarium to them because they have a particular workshop that they're delivering, and then with renting some spaces. And then in some areas, the honorariums that we've planned are not in line with traditional expectations for some different groups as well. So these are just pieces that we're managing. But overall, it's been a really successful program with a lot of really, really positive feedback. And we continue to see exponential benefits to this program. So for example, in our pilot, we made a really strong connection with our Filipino community. I think that has increased even more with the recent event. But because of that initial connection, they invited us to come to their festival that they just had this last weekend, which we hadn't gone to before. While we were at that festival, the Vietnamese community saw us there and asked us to come to their festival in September, which we haven't been invited to before as well. So we're continuing to see a lot of, especially cultural and specific community engagement benefits coming out from this program.
Thank you very much. It's interesting that the program is designed to support members onboarding to VicPD, but it has the impact of, endearing VicPD to some of the cultural groups that you're working with. So that's a really positive outcome. That I don't know if that was intended, but I appreciate that. Desjardins.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I'm sure it's gaining a lot of momentum. I'm just wondering how both communities are accessed for providing for this information. Because I know Victoria, you can eat around the world, but you can do it in 3 blocks in the Esquimalt, so you could. There's lots of opportunity in this one.
I think that I'll let Mandeep address this, but in a larger sense, I think that the cultural community groups that we're connecting with don't really have distinct groups between Victoria and Esquimalt. They usually go across both groups, but I'll let you.
Yes, a lot of the groups that we're dealing with, the Chinese community, the Sikh community, the indigenous communities, the African communities, and so on, are the larger community groups that we're seeing right now. Where May session was compared to January session, there's a lot more community groups in this last session than there was in January. So that's where ICA comes in place. So we gain that partnership with them. ICA has the stats of what community groups are growing within Victoria. So as those community groups grow, we can now attend to those areas and speak with them. The nice thing about Greater Victoria, yeah. The nice thing about going and speaking with these individuals or the community groups is they all have similarities, but you're gaining a little bit more about their culture and their events. So ICA comes in place and does a presentation to speak in regards of a lot more of the community groups that we're just not able to go to, but still come into Victoria to go to festivals, go to groups, sessions, and community events here as well.
Any more questions or comments on the Beyond the Badge presentation? Chief?
Thank you, Chair. Cheryl, thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to say there's a lot of thanks that are to go around to start up a new program that is meant to build deeper understanding with communities and improving the long-term trust. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And so I just wanted to thank Cheryl, her team, HR. There's an internal one-day piece there. Manny, to you, you were with the group both sessions in January and in May, and all of the recruits, and also to deliver the survey results or deliver the survey and get the feedback forms filled, but also the community groups. And I can tell you that most of the community groups have personally reached out to me as I meet with them, including the Filipino community where I was at this past weekend at Centennial Square. And they are absolutely humbled. They never thought that the police department, they see it as a separate entity. They're not connected to the Victoria Police Department necessarily unless there's a crime. But the police department reached out to them and is asking them to speak to new police recruits about their culture, their history, and how they perceive the police in their community, and what are some of the fears, some of the strengths to build upon. Building that relationship is just amazing to see. And so on that sense, just that alone has really brought our police department much, much closer to many of our communities, as Cheryl has said, who normally necessarily wouldn't think, not that they don't like the PD, but they never really wouldn't include us in any of their community celebrations, but yet here we see ourselves now being included and connecting and building those positive relationships. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think it is extremely positive, so.
I apologize. I asked Constable Sohi to come and bolster the presentation. I didn't give him a chance to speak. I believe he had a couple points he wanted to highlight, so.
Basically, from a person in my career, having these officers come out and hearing what these different community groups are talking about, the culture and stuff, it's eye-opening because I also am learning from their culture as well. And I can see that these officers are actually gaining knowledge and value in this program. I do see before the badge being a highlight of the PD, as well as providing that knowledge that the recruits will need going forward. There are components where a certain group may not deal with the police officers because of stigma that they may be facing. So gaining that knowledge from them, we're also providing the knowledge to them as well. I'm like, no, it's not necessarily like that. So it's kind of a win-win situation for both. I do see a tremendous value in this, and I do wish for it to grow. 5 days is tight. If we are able to get a couple more days, it could be great, just because they are given the time allocation of either 2 hours or 4 hours, depending on how much of a presentation they're providing. But the recruits are absorbing so much in such a small amount of time that they're not gaining a lot of that value, even though there is. So if we are able to provide more hours and a couple of days here and there, I can see it benefiting the program.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in for that perspective. Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on, I will look around the room to seek any declarations of conflict of interest. Seeing none, thank you. We'll look to adopt the public agenda of June 17th, 2025. Elizabeth, seconded by Mayor Desjardins. All those in favor? Great, thank you. Motion carries. And I will look to adopt the public minutes of May 20th, 2025. All seconded by Holly. Any errors, omissions, changes? Seeing none, thank you. All those in favor? Great, motion carries. Board chair update. I don't have anything that I'll update in board chair update. I will wait till we go 2 layers down. So thank you very much. And I will go for my committee updates. Get my agenda back. Oh, Well, it looks like I have no committee updates. Does anybody have anything that they would like to bring forward as a committee update at this time? Elizabeth?
I'll just say very briefly that the community consultations with respect to 2026 budget are almost complete now. We've met with business groups, with resident groups, with diversity groups, so we had a great conversation with each of those, plus the staff of our two municipalities. We have met with the Esquimalt Council last night, and we have already coming up. And the staff are busy working on the budget. We met together at that point.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And I think it's great to be starting so early. I really appreciate the work that you're doing to spearhead that and get the conversations going. Now we'll move on to item F, board member engagement update. This is an opportunity for any board members to share anything interesting that they have done. Mayor Desjardins.
Well, first, I'd just like to acknowledge that we have Councillor Borden in the room. From the
Welcome.
Esquimalt Town Council. The update is that one of our community resource officers, Ian Dyack, who is just amazing in our community, has pulled together a group of people who are interested in reinvigorating Esquimalt Together Against Graffiti. He has found some resources for paint and paintbrushes. And right now he has reached out to the group to find a sort of public start to e-tag. And so we're looking at spaces, and we'll do a painting.
Oh, that's really wonderful.
Or a paint out.
A big note. Thank you, that's a great update. Any other board members have anything to bring forward at this time? Okay, great. Well, I will give a quick update before I go into my next updates. That I had an opportunity to attend the CAPOL conference recently in Fredericton, the Canadian Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. I took about 900 pages of notes, and I will say, honestly, I haven't had time to collate them into something that is ready to share, but it was a really, I'll just give it 2 notes, and then I would like to have an opportunity at the July meeting to share a little bit more. It was a real opportunity to learn a lot more about civilian oversight of law enforcement. It was less governance focused and much more focused on offices similar to OPCC and IIO, but throughout the country. There was a lot of extremely interesting conversation there, and I think there's a lot for us, for boards to learn and understand about the different layers of oversight and the role that we might play in being constructive in supporting timely outcomes of investigations, which I think is something that will come up later in our discussion. But I just wanted to acknowledge that I've been there, and that I will look forward to providing a more fulsome update to the board when literally I have a chance to review my very furious note-taking that I did at that conference. And moving on to the BC Association of Police Boards, I do want to take an opportunity to acknowledge Inspector King. I know that I said this at the last meeting, but I think you weren't there when I talked about how well received your presentation was at the recent conference. And that was my own opinion before, but now we've received conference feedback, and it is substantiated by a pie chart. So your presentation was really wonderful. And in his presentation, I'm getting a text from the executive director of Canadian Association of Police Governors. We need this guy. He's so funny and so knowledgeable. And I just really appreciate you making the trip over. And it was so well received and informative for boards to have a better understanding of the fentanyl crisis and what's brought us here. So thank you very much. And I definitely will be asking you to do more things in the future. So acknowledging that in advance. BCAPB has just started work on what we'll do with the 7 resolutions that we passed at our AGM. So there'll be more information on that coming forward after the executive is met next week. But it's our opportunity to advocate for things that are impacting boards across the province. So there'll be more information there. And the Canadian Association of Police Governance, I know many people in this room are attending the conference in August. It's really nice to be highlighting our city and having so many people. We have over 220 people registered, which is the biggest conference that CAPG has ever had. We sold out and then begged everybody to increase their capacity and everywhere we were. And a big shout out to the Royal BC Museum and Barton Banker and everybody who has allowed us to bring more people who want to have a conversation about national governance issues. I'll just give board members a heads up that I will send out, I think these have come to you separately, but I will send everybody out something bothering them with more information about whether anybody else from our board is interested in participating in CAPG. There's one more provincial position available for a BC member to sit on that board. And there's also a package with an opportunity to nominate people for awards. If you've worked with anybody from a staff perspective or from a board governance perspective, there's 3 different categories and they're seeking nominations for awards. So I will send that out just in one more package. Both of those things are open until the end of the month. Very much. There's no questions. We'll hand it over to Chief Manick for Chief Constable update.
Sure, perfect. Thank you for that. The Chief Constable's report is on page 13 in your package, so I won't spend too much time going over that. But just cover off some highlights. I ended up presenting civic service awards to community members and to 2 longtime Big PD volunteers. You'll see from the report that there was a number of Chief Constable commendations that I had the pleasure of presenting, and also a number of promotional plaques. We've seen a number of our staff get promoted since the last update, and also presenting exemplary service medals to 5 well-deserving officers. That's the written report. Deputy Brown, is there anything that you have from the operations or admin side?
No, I talked to Deputy McRae, nothing from the ops side for the public session, nothing from the admin.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And then I've got just 2 final updates that I have. One is the recent release of the City of Victoria's Community Safety Wellbeing Plan. So I've done a number of media, including CFAX and CBC yesterday. So I just wanted to say that this is a thorough plan. So it's 79 pages. There's like 99 recommendations, but those recommendations are informed by comprehensive community input. This is a plan that comes comes from the community, and it is community inspired. Also led by the 11 community leaders that were on this panel for the last 18 months or longer. And so just extremely pleased to be a part of the plan. I will just say this, that the purpose of this plan is to reimagine what we can do collectively in a number of areas. It's not just policing and public safety. It can be healthcare, it can be housing, it can be downtown, it can be improving the quality of life for residents within the city. But what it does is it creates a roadmap. And that map is going to guide, I hope, the work of the Victoria Police Department, the connection and collaboration that we have with city bylaw, improve that, make sure that there's key points of contact, add in a level of focus, a purpose to how we move forward together in challenging many of these complex issues. So I'm hoping that it gets adopted by the city on Thursday. I'm hoping that there are resources and money that's dedicated to support many of the ideas coming from the plan, and I look forward to continuing to work with the city on this. So that was the first thing. And the second thing I just wanted to comment on is the Downtown Victoria Business Association released the annual report. In that report was a survey. The survey got my attention, and I reached out to Jeff Bray, who's the CEO of the DVBA, and gave him my commitment that the Victoria Police Department would be working in collaboration with the city, with bylaw, and in doing anything and everything that we can do to enhance our presence downtown. It turns out that we're already had worked on a grant proposal with the province on what is called C-STEP funding. It is that stands for Community Safety Targeted Enforcement Program. And so we've got approval for funding, and it's going to allow the Victoria Police Department to deploy visible police presence and foot patrols in and around the downtown core. And the whole purpose of the C-STEP funding is to look at more social disorder and nuisance calls, whereas other site funding and other grants available to the province have been focused on violent offenders. So the timing of this is perfect. I want to just put a caveat out there that with the shortages that we do have in our organization and the demands that stretch us thin, we're going to do the best job that we can. And I want to make sure that as a chief, I'm not over promising. We are going to have visibility. We're going to make this work. And I've given that assurance to the Downtown Victoria Business Association. But we still have some challenges around staffing and competing priorities that we have to juggle. And that's a constant juggle that myself and the leadership team have to manage. So I'll leave my comments at that. I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any questions coming back from that update? Yes. Paul?
Just the chief, thank you for the report, and I think I would encourage the board to actually read the report from the Downtown and the Victoria Business Association. It's quite a powerful document, and there's an open letter, as the chief mentioned, from the executive CEO officer Jeff Bray, and it's been reported, but the number of stating that 48% of businesses in the downtown core said, if it weren't tied to a lease, they would be questioning whether or not they're going to stay is an alarming fact that losing businesses is just going to cause even further problems, and we all know that. And so I'm pleased to see that we've applied for the C-STEP funding. I guess my question through the chair to you, Chief, is what the timing of that funds, and are we confident we're going to actually receive the money that we applied for?
So answer your first question through you, Chair. Answer the first question. We're confident that we've got approval for the money. The funds are in place. Our plan is to start this probably within the next 2 weeks. What that looks like, how often the deployments are, and in what part of downtown, we're just working out those logistics.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for what extent of time is this a project that has an end date?
It will, and we're still, again, we're looking at doing a media release on having more of the details. It definitely have a start date, as I said, within the next 2 weeks, and we'll have an end date, and there's only a certain amount of money that's available to us at the moment.
Thank you very much. Chief, did you do your equity, diversity, and inclusion update?
No, I did not.
Great, we'll move on to that.
Okay, perfect, thanks. And again, at the bottom of the report that's in your package, you'll see the 3 events that I attended since my last update. We met with members of a number of police officers from our ops planning. Myself and the deputy met with members of the South Asian community. So every year they do Khalsa Day parade. We're talking about some enhancements and some changes perhaps for future years. But it was a good meeting, and certainly the South Asian community was appreciative of Vic PD's efforts, especially when it came one day after the tragedy that happened at the Lapu Lapu Festival in Vancouver. And there was a lot of concern from the South Asian community around safety for their event the day after. Also participated in the Special Olympics law enforcement torch run that was ahead of the Oak Bay Tea Party parade. And I was on stage as part of the platform party with Mayor Alto and a number of other dignitaries on Saturday at the Filipino Festival at Centennial Square. And ended up staying for a number of hours afterwards, just enjoying the festivities, the culture, and the food. That's my update.
So now we'll move on to new business, and I'll pass it over to Inspector Brown for an update on the news release that came from the OPCC.
Thank you, Chair. I will just speak to this fairly quickly and then take any questions. Obviously, the board is aware of this incident. It's a very tragic incident that happened from 2019, which culminated in a public hearing. Adjudicator Wally Opal administered that public hearing, and he brought down his decision within the last couple weeks. Obviously, our hearts go out to the Roche family for this tragic incident. This is not how we wanted the incident to end, and I think the adjudicator acknowledged that. It's been very difficult for the Roche family, also very difficult for our officer as well, and the adjudicator acknowledged that as well. Obviously, we can't bring Ms. Roche back, but their adjudicator Opal has offered some recommendations to us so that we can have some positive things come out of this very tragic incident. And I'll just summarize the 3 recommendations that he has provided for us and the steps that we're going to take to comply with these recommendations. The first one, that he's directed the board on a priority basis to take steps to acquire the use of body worn cameras for our frontline officers. And I can just advise the public, this is something that has been on the board's radar screen for a while, or the department's radar screen for a while. And certainly the Victoria Police Department is open to having body worn cameras. We think that that will create even better public transparency and will also assist with evidence collection as well. So we look forward to being able to implement that recommendation. It's something the department is supportive of. The second thing that adjudicator Opal spoke to was just the ongoing duty of officers to take really good notes, particularly in high stress, tragic incidents such as these. So just for the board's reminder, this incident happened in 2019, and we actually undertook a policy review in 2021 with respect to our notes, and we had given an update with respect to our notes, which was ultimately approved by the board. And adjudicator Opal, with respect to this particular recommendation, noted that our 2021 update, as far as he's concerned, meets a very reasonable standard. And the only recommendation is that we reach out to the province to see if we can work with the province to have province-wide legislation around our note taking. But it appears from adjudicator Opal's perspective that our current policy would be a good template. So we appreciate that, and I think adjudicator Opal was appreciative of the steps that we took in 2021 to update our note taking policy. And then the final piece that adjudicator Opal asked us to consider was updating our policy with respect to how do we communicate with family members when there is a tragic incident and a loved one is lost, and also how can we better communicate with our officers as well. And I can just advise the board, Chief Manick and I have both met with the family and given them updates and perspectives on how this unfolded. We acknowledge that we could have done a better job speaking with the family at the front end of this incident. And we just wanted the family to know it's not a situation of us not wanting to engage with them. There's just difficulties with incidents like this. They are so regulated by the Independent Investigations Office, the OPCC. And we just want to make sure that we're not interfering with those investigations. But as a result of this incident, we've spoken with the IAO and the OPCC, and we're confident that we can actually come up with a better process. So again, hopefully another tragic incident like this doesn't happen, but sometimes these incidents do happen. And I think we're working with the chief and our policy group to come up with something where we can engage with family members early on in a situation like this. And we will work with the OPCC and the IAO to make sure that any engagement we do with the family won't impact the investigations that have to be undertaken. And so we're going to develop some policy around that, and we will come back to the board and report on that. So those are really my comments, unless anyone has any specific questions regarding these.
Thank you very much. Paul?
Thank you, Inspector Brown. It's obviously a terrible situation all around, and your words were spot on. In our previous budgets, we have talked about body worn cameras and those requests. My memory serves me correct. We were looking at doing a pilot project, and the funding at that time was turned down. Do we know the cost to actually fully implement body worn cameras for all frontline officers? And if so, and what is the ongoing cost for that?
I would probably, the chief has taken big strides in this area. I'd probably defer to him for that specific program.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you. Through your chair. So you're absolutely correct. And your memory serves you correctly. The Victoria Police Department did request $150,000 in our 2023 budget for a pilot project to introduce body worn cameras within the Victoria Police Department. That was turned down by both councils. It was supported and appealed under a section 27 review to the provincial government. And the Assistant Deputy Minister and Director of Police Services came back and said that because there was no legal requirement to implement a body worn camera program or pilot, that he did not support the $150,000. That was in 2023, a decision which we received in early part of 2024. So as a result of that, we have not approached this topic. This is now coming out as a recommendation. And what we are going to do is we are going to put together, we can't ask for the same amount of money that we did in 2023, that ship has sailed. Most organizations, that I'll tell you, the Victoria Police Department is falling behind with technology. We have in many cases been the leader when it comes to implementing technological changes and advancements in policing. Other many agencies within the British Columbia now have full body worn camera programs. We're now at the tail end of that. So what we're gonna put together is what we think is going to be maybe not a pilot, but a small introduction of the program. A full program is extremely costly. We have been told from the BC Prosecution Service that it would be up to the police organization for disclosure to transcribe any audio or any commentary that is recorded. There are challenges around storage, around privacy, around cataloging, and then reporting out and submitting disclosure to Crown in the event where there's a criminal charge that's laid. And so all of these issues have to be worked out, but what we're interested in perhaps for 2026 is to demonstrate some leadership and put together a program that is robust. Perhaps it's introducing it to 2 watches. I believe that we still need community input. I'm a big believer that when you're introducing a new program, you want to go out and you want to just engage your community and make sure that they're on board with such a program. We're going to put the numbers together and you'll see something coming forward for the board at the finance committee meeting within a couple weeks in July. But it's hard to put a number on what a full program would be. But we have, I can tell you that Director Kosich in Human Resources has tasked her sergeant in charge of training with coming up with some of those costs, but we're not going to implement a full foreign program because it just would be cost prohibitive to do that into 2026.
Thank you very much. I did have a few quick follow-ups on that. I think, and just as a note for the board, I think technology is a governance issue and we need to be talking about it a lot more than we are. So I will add that to my very long list of things that we need to be talking about. But I don't know who this question is for, but is falling behind in technology a recruitment and retention issue? Do people looking to join Vic PD want to be part of a department that has up-to-date and innovative tech responses to technology? Like we discussing earlier issues with recruitment and retention, and I wonder how not even participating in body worn cameras in 2025 is impacting that.
I can answer that and I'll ask you, Chris, if you've got any comments. I think the short answer is yes. It's a competitive environment. Recruits now have the opportunity to pick and select police departments. As much as we're trying to pick and select the best of the best, there are opportunities in many police organizations. And I believe the feedback that we get from our recruits, and again, I'll ask the director from Human Resources to comment on this, recruits are looking for agencies that are progressive, that have a good positive culture, that are on the cutting edge of not just technology, but community engagement and are gonna best serve what they feel they want to pursue in a policing career. Chris, do you have anything to add to them?
Yeah, I just agree with you. I think that's something that are maybe not so much at the recruitment level, but at retention probably more so is our members can pick and choose where they want to go. And a lot of our younger recruits they're really savvy and they want different opportunities. And some of those opportunities would be like body worn camera, like the chief is mentioning, we're behind. So yeah.
And what about related to wellness? Does having an opportunity to be recorded and have the material facts of an incident available, does that contribute to wellness for members?
I can only speculate on that. I'm not a member, but I would say from PSS, you probably have some idea on that.
Yeah, Chair, I would just say anecdotally, if we had body worn cameras, again, primarily, we think it would be better public facing for the public, more transparent. I also think it gives us an opportunity that we don't have right now to shed a better light on a lot of the police complaints we get, which is better for our officers, but also better for members of the public. So certainly better accountability piece, and I think definitely a better wellness piece. And that's not to say that the complaints we get right now shouldn't be investigated the way they do, but I just think that having body worn cameras is going to be able to allow us to investigate those more efficiently.
And would it reduce, I know this would be speculative because it's not up to you, but could it reduce the timeline of the length of an investigation that we're dealing with?
Potentially, and there may be times where it actually either shortens an investigation or it may be able to show all parties, because oftentimes in critical, stressful instances, people have different perceptions. And then you have a body worn camera to actually give a video record. And that may actually, again, I think it increases accountability for our officers. But I think it also paints people a picture of what happened, and maybe people can see that and say, I don't need to proceed with my complaint.
Thank you very much. I do have one more thing to say on this topic, but I'll take everybody else's questions first.
Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say, I can kind of comment on another agency's experience. I met last year with the Alberta Police Commission, and they were commenting that because of course they have some pretty widespread body worn camera programs there, it cuts down like within the first month on 50% of their police complaints. Just significant.
Thank you. Good perspective. Additional questions, comments? Well, I think I'll just make one more statement. I don't know if all of the board members had an opportunity to read Sergeant Vineyard's comment that came forward in the Times Colonist. If you haven't, I encourage you to look it up and read it. It was really impactful. It was beautifully written. I wrote to her very early on Sunday morning to share that fact, but I think it really highlighted the full process. I thought the words were very well chosen to acknowledge all of the people and all of the many impacts of that. And I just wonder, what can the board do to support in a prolonged investigation like that in terms of supporting our members and supporting morale of the members and acknowledging, of course, the impacts of the family and the community. But I think it was really, I felt throughout, and I know I was in regular touch with you about this, but wondering what our role should be in that and wondering if there's a role, an advocacy role for supporting, asking, looking for better timelines. I don't know, just sort of a general question of what can we do?
You and I chatted about it. Inspector, do you want to just?
Yeah, I would just say really quickly, the biggest value that the board can add is just speaking on our behalf to the commission. I mean, you are a governance body and a very important governance body for accountability and advocating on our behalf. Again, we are fully supportive of the commissioner. We are fully supportive of the OPCC, but the reality is these investigations stretch longer and longer and longer in all aspects of the investigations. They require more resources for us. The complaints, not so much the complaints themselves, but the process itself takes much longer, takes much more resources to investigate. We don't always have the resources to do that in a timely fashion. The commission and the commissioner are working very hard. Again, we're very supportive, but advocating for ways to cut down on the timelines is something that we would be appreciative of. And we have some ideas. We've actually spoken to the chiefs of police about some of the things that we think could be done to streamline these processes. But again, obviously, it's ultimately up to the commissioner as to how he sees the process unfolding. But we have reached out to the chiefs now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just to add to that, thank you, Inspector, for that. The BC Association of Municipal Chiefs of Police have created a working group, a separate group. Inspector or Deputy Chief Michael Brown is actually on that committee and for representing Vic PD. And what we're doing is we're coming together to meet with the commissioner on a frequent basis to bring up issues of commonality that we're seeing across the province, not just with any one experience. And certainly the current situation we find ourselves in is just even with a complaint that is submitted for admissibility review can take between 6 to 8 months before a decision is made, even if a complaint is admissible. And so these delays then just further compound the stress on the member, their ability to perhaps be promoted, to be transferred. And they take a tremendous toll. So we're trying to address these issues, but as the inspector said so eloquently, having the board support as a governance body in having these type of discussions or support for our police organization would be appreciated.
Moving on from that, I can see we just have some for correspondence, an acknowledgement that was sent in about a positive experience, but I'm just, thank you all. About a positive experience with some of our members. I appreciate anybody in the public who takes the opportunity to write into Big PD and share a positive experience. So I know you've all had a chance to read it, and I'm just sort of additionally acknowledging those members. Oh, maybe if I was looking at the right agenda, that would probably help. Thank you, Paul. Don't just point at me, tell me specifically what I'm doing wrong. Great, thank you. And I'll go to item 5, which is a rise and report that earlier this evening, the board received the results from the 2025 Big PD Community Survey. We really appreciated all of the work that was done in that, and we have asked the Community Engagement Division to release the report publicly. So that information is forthcoming, and we're looking forward to having that out in the public for discussion and awareness. Okay, well, I've already done item 17 or item A under 6 because I was not paying attention. And also acknowledging the Ecom June update. I don't know if there's any discussion related to this or if people just had an opportunity to review it themselves. Great, thank you. Well, it looks like you're gonna shake your head at me, but did I miss something?
No, that's it. Just checking off the list here.
Great, thank you very much. So I will take a motion to adjourn the public portion of the meeting. Elizabeth, second by Ollie. All those in favor? Thank you very much.